The Senator for Nandi County. He's our guest for the next 1 hour. Senator, yes. Habari ya leo?
Mzuri.
Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. And you know, today we're having question time in the Senate on Wednesdays from 9:30.
Who's appearing today?
It should be the CS for roads and CS for sports and then CS for national planning and treasury.
Two of your people in one.
Let's City
But
first
we
give us the
amended
program.
standing orders 53D.
City, what is the proverb?
Our proverbs come from the country of Namibia, otherwise known as the Republic of Namibia. Now, today's proverb is a simple, straightforward proverb. A parasite cannot live alone.
A parasite cannot live alone.
Not possible.
Senator, what's your interpretation of this?
No, I think what we should be interpreting is symbiotic relationship. You cannot survive without the other. I think that is the wisdom, that we need each other at the end of the day. Sometimes you think in life you have everything, but sometimes not that you have everything. Even if you have, in terms of material wealth, you might be lonely and you need somebody to beat stories with. So it has been proven all long over time that we need each other. That's what makes the world beautiful.
Actually, point well taken. Human beings are relational creatures.
Correct.
We thrive well
Yes.
in the company of others.
Correct.
Yes.
Or while feeding from others.
We thrive well
Yes.
when we relate to others. Now, the details of the relationship, Eric,
It's
now
where
those
the devil
vary.
is. The details is in the devil.
Yes,
The devil is in the details.
Yes.
Senator,
Yes, sir.
when it is not Ababu na Mwamba,
Yes.
it is Kipchumba Murkomen.
Yes.
What's up?
Nothing much. We are doing our oversight role as it should be. You know, in as much as we are in the ruling political party, sometimes we have to look out for each other, and what we are just doing is to look out for each other. You have the reason some of us are hard on some of these fellows relating their duty is the president is working hard, going around the world, sleeping on the plane to try and look for friends and partners to get more resources.
Not on the job.
Of course, not sleeping, but on the way, trying to look for friends, for resources. When he has really fought others through international IMF, others through friendship and foreign direct investment that has raked in around 2 trillion FDIs into the country, then somebody somewhere is sleeping on the job. And we know where we are as a country. The economy is not looking as impressive as it should have been. Kenyans are struggling and many other challenges. So when you get somebody who has been given an assignment sleeping on the job, then it is our business as brothers to look at each other for. And some of those cabinet secretaries have been cantankerous. Of course, for example, like Murkomen, he came to a funeral in my county and started insulting me and calling me a kilikidogo. So I found it that is violation of Chapter 6 and leadership and integrity, because as a leader you must carry yourself with certain dignity. And I had only raised 2 issues. One was, why was our tarmac roads in Nandi taking long? As we talk now, there are so many, I don't want to call it landslide, but our roads are totally impassable. And these are tarmac roads that had been approved from 2013, yet they are yet to be tarmac. So that is one question I raised. And number 2 was building up with local contractors. In fact, as we talk, I propose a bill which is a legislative proposal of amending Public Procurement and Disposal Act, where I'm proposing that 2 billion shillings and below should be given to local contractors, 200 million to youth special interest groups, and of course, if you have ownership or co-ownership of foreign companies, at least 50% should belong to the local contractor. So those were the only 2 issues. But when he stood up, he just decided to demean, belittle me, and insult me. And of course, from where I come from, the speed at which you want to attack some of us will make it times 2, so that the impact is felt greatly. And that is why, you as cabinet ministers, shows you the power has entered into the head. And I think there is a French revolutionarist who said absolute power corrupts absolutely. So those are some, and as a leader, in as much as we are a new year in government, we have to raise, that is why I'm elected, to speak on behalf of the great people of Nandi and Kenyans. It does not mean that we become silent when we need to raise our issues, because at that time 1 year before, he came to a place called Mosoriat, where I come from, and he had promised that within 3 weeks they should be contractor in some of the roads in Masob, in Aldai, in Chesumei, in Tindred, virtually across Nandi County. But then like 10 months later, the contractors had not responded, and when he rose up, instead of responding, telling us when will the contractors report, how are we going to, because my brothers Latiff and my sister here and Muga, the neighbor, the good neighbor, which we are working around sugar reforms with, is naturally he should have said the contractors are reporting this way, Mheshimiwa, we have agreed this way. But when you start and you know I'm elected by the people, and they say the voice of the people is the voice of God, so it's like you are being blasphemous against God Almighty by attacking CHERARGEI, who is a God chosen by the people. So and those are some of the issues you saw here in JKI, an international airport leaking, and you want to form a commission or a committee to look into the leaking rooms. What happens now with the roads that are being washed away in Marsabit, in Mandera, in Wajir, in Nandi, here in Nairobi? Even this Mombasa road, a contractor was given, is not properly marked. When you drive through the night, it's chaos. There are floods all over because the drainage and the contractor that was given to do lower deck has not done the job that it should be. I can see even accessing, I can see they are now trying, even accessing your offices here. There is a big ditch that they are working on. But these are some of the things that we need to fix. You don't need somebody to prompt you. You know, if he was busy working within his ministry, he would not have time to come and demean and belittle some of us, because it means you are busy in the office doing what he should be. And then you remember when the president was in Bomet, I told the president that as you struggle to get the resources, allow us to assist and look out for some of the CSS who are sleeping on the job. And the president does not have a problem. And that is why he was instrumental in amending the standing orders. When we went to parliamentary group, the president said, let us amend the standing orders of the National Assembly and the Senate to ensure cabinet secretaries come before the floor of the houses to answer some of those questions. And one of the issues will be even today in the order paper question is about upgrading of airstrips, including where we have a very interesting airstrip in Kericho County called Kerenga. Have you seen an airstrip where the planes get stuck in the mud and people wear gumboots to board? There is one in Kakamega, another airstrips. Even when you go to Kisumu International Airport, I had information that even sewerage system is not functional in Kisumu International Airport. So the questions that are coming is the president imagine that it's good for these cabinet secretaries to come and answer to the representatives of the people. Because we are representing the people, they cannot come and answer to City Muga or your people in Ahero or Moroni. Why floods is sweeping that area? We are your senator or me myself as a good neighbor would ask what is the interventions that are in place. Even the way the deputy president was also asking yesterday in Mombasa about governors who have been given over 10 billion, but they are here to show what they are doing towards alleviating the suffering of floods in the country.
Senator, I have to ask, the issues that you raise are quite some, and they go countrywide. And obviously, we talk about the boundaries of oversight, and it's possible that there could be no boundaries. That oversight then allows you to go far and wide and say, so long as there's something that's supposed to be done, there will be oversight. And this house is tasked with the responsibility of that for the nation. My question is, the things that you complain about in terms of having not been done or where attention should be put are things that Kenyans are crying about every single day.
Agreed.
Would you speak with such vehemence if this little, what should I call it, tiff then did not happen between yourself and this particular CS? Would you then, with as much vigor and vim as you do now, be complaining about these issues that are not being worked on around the country?
No, but it's not even about the thief, because there was no thief before. Because if you realize, and I wish, and I know, of course, you have journalists across the country, if they can do translation, I raise things that affect people directly. I didn't attack him at personal level or question why he's wearing an expensive watch, or as he has been the case, or wearing expensive shoes. that they are flouting the social media. If I had raised
that,
I didn't question because I can still request when you'll get time, and I'm always available to you guys 24/7. You will get a very good Nandi who can translate and tell you what I really point by point. And you guys, you are a prolific journalist and you understand this. So I didn't even raise about the expensive shoes that he wears and throws in social media or watches, but I raised on particular, which I would have raised if I was in Kiambu, because as we talk, you know, we have good we have milk now, we have maize, we are harvesting, we have vegetables, we want to take it to Kisumu. Our neighbor is our biggest market, but you can't move those things from a place called Kamonyeria all the way to Kopere
because
into
the roads are bad.
Because they're pathetic. You can't move from somewhere in Tulwa Girls all the way to Singlet to Eldoret to take our milk. You can't move things, and that I was just raising. It was not even about personal issues, because I was just raising. And then number two, we want to empower local contractors. We cannot go to China, borrow billions and billions of shillings, come put it in our banks here in Nairobi, CBK, then bring the same Chinese. Of course, I am not against Chinese. Give them the same contracts, they take them the same money, then we come to debt. I thought it is better to empower local contractors, which are majorly special interest group, give them financial muscle and the capacity, so that we are able to build our own capacity and in terms of the economy. And those were just
those are the issues.
But I want to assure you, finally, so that I tie up, I don't forget, it's not about tea from my sister here, because I raised the similar issues with Ababu Namwamba. And it is not that he does, I don't think he has even my phone number. I don't have his phone number. But what I was looking within the sports industry should have been fixed. And I'm happy that it received the attention of the president. We have had a discussion. And there are some of these things that we are trying to do to ensure we reform the sports sector. And I'm happy you gave me a forum last time. You can see there are at least some changes, although it is not as it should have been expected, but we hope to push it more and maybe give legislative or policy intervention. So I can assure you, my sister, that going into the future, some of us will always speak our mind, but we'll always speak our mind and call out where we think it should be called out for the benefit of all Kenyans. Because the president also needs people who will assist him in calling out some of these individuals who have power has gone to their heads.
And this calling out, how effective can it be? Because this is the thing.
Yes.
One would hope that the noise is, well, oh, you know, I hope you're not doing this and you're not doing the other.
Yes.
But we then judge the effectiveness of these call-outs when we actually start to see things being done as a result of it.
Yes, yes.
So how much of it then would be necessary? And you then see the application of it as a result of the calling out or the oversight role that Senate will actually be playing. If we remove the politics, because you cannot deny that it is there, if we remove the characters that play in this drama, again, we cannot deny that it is there. The thing that you talk about, which lies there front and center, is that these things ought to be done. And how can we be sure that the little drama that we see then will result in these things being done?
No, the work of oversight, let me not call it a calling out. In fact, is the president, if you have had president saying before that if you like a system, you critique positively to ensure you bring the best outcome. Because a functionality of a system should have at least an oversight. The role of the oversight under Article 96 and even the Constitutional Board of the National Assembly is cross-cutting. And therefore, when we call out, and it is very effective, because you remember when we call out some CSs as Senate, and you saw Senate leadership, they were cabinet reshuffle. For example, CS of Trade was moved to public service for effectiveness. In fact, when I came here and we were discussing about sports reforms, it reached a time now that the gold medalist is given 3 million, is it silver 2 million, bronze 1 million. Now they are giving house, now they are even giving attention when they are coming and ensuring that they are comfortable wherever they are. Although I know we have not reached, in fact, in terms of elections in Sports Federation. So you can see it has been effective. On this one on roads, it must be, because we have allocated the budget. And that is why we really want to, and in our question time today in the Senate, and I know you will watch hopefully, these are some of the critical issues that even as floods happen and sweep away the roads, what are the interventions that the ministry has put put in place. And that is why we are saying, as a cabinet minister, focus on your core business. And that is why the genius of the constitution was that you can either be a CS or a politician. You can't be both. You can't have your cake and eat it. So, and in fact, what I've been emphasizing, if we have monitored, even when we were in the president in Bomet and even in Eldoret when he came for prayers, has been the emphasis that let the people who are supposed to work, and let the politicians do their job. But most of the cabinet secretaries, of course, I agree with them, they have political hangovers because they have been politicians like some of us. So sometimes they feel overconfident to comment on political statements, and some of them are into succession politics, into other matters, instead of focusing
on the job at hand.
Because, for example, like CS Lintur yesterday came to Nandi. He came to Eldoret, and Nandi gave us dryers, and that is a CS who does his job. The others have been coming to funerals and arambes and just trying to say, this is the politics we should do, this is, and they are using their offices to pledge loyalty. And that is why some of them have been saying, if you had in the response say, CHERARGEI has never visited my office. It is because the offices has been turned into pledging loyalty forums.
So let's actually go into that.
Yes.
Have you, in the matter of, we dispense with the Babu Namwamba.
Yes.
Now it's the matter of the roads cabinet secretary.
But we are not yet done with him until he finishes the reforms, especially on upcoming elections of FK.
Sawa.
Yes.
On this current matter of the cabinet secretary for roads, have you raised questions in Parliament formally?
Yes.
Have you reached out to his office directly and said, we have these issues, for example, in my county that need addressing. I'd like a report on how far we are on this, and the other. Before you went on to Twitter and public saying that Kipchumba Murkomen needs to answer?
In fact, I think I will try and get to the statement I made early this year on March on the state of roads. And I hope I'll be able to send you via WhatsApp when I get to my office. I had requested the state of roads in Nandi in March. When we met, we agreed. I've never met him personally, but we sat, and when the budget committee told us all roads that had stalled, they will prioritize the finalizing of raising to bitumen standards, number one, which we did that. Number two, you remember he was to appear last week, but he became late because he was somewhere in Mombasa and he didn't make it. In fact, I am on record. If you check the answer of the Senate, I raised an issue that were we waiting for him? Because I wanted to raise supplementary questions, especially on the issue of delays stalled roads in Nandi, the issue of Karenga.
He didn't make it on time.
He didn't come
I was
eventually.
with him in Mombasa. The deputy president was there.
Also, you are around.
Took a bit long. I can attest that they left. The engineers
so you have been
meeting
in corridors of power.
The engineers meeting a bit late.
A bit late. So we were waiting because he was supposed to appear at 11, and some of us had prepared questions on the stalled roads in Nandi, and also Kerengaya strip in Kericho. Virtually a number of roads that do you think these roads that are being washed away by El Nino?
So you've asked
it be
these
the
questions.
Substandard? Yes, we
have you written to him?
Why would I write to him?
As a representative of the people of Nandi County.
No,
have you written to the minister in charge of roads saying, these are matters that have come out of my constituents, and I'd like an answer, or you to tell me how far we are going?
The point is, I have used Parliament because it is more formal and it has a record answer. Writing to somebody looks like love letters, because in future, how can you do reference to them? So I think the formal way is I've requested that statement through the floor of the House. He has appeared, in fact, not only on Nandi roads, I've even requested on this lower deck of Mombasa Road, because I believe a substandard work was done. There is always flooding, there is no proper marking, and even the person who did expressway did not do the maintenance, and that is why we have been raising some of the. Even I raised the issue of Kenya Airways performance. And I think it is on record. We tried even forming an ad hoc to investigate the issue of Kenya Airways. So all these issues are captured in the answer. I've tried my best to use the channels that are legally, constitutionally recognized, so that there is accountability, so that in future, Latiff, when you go to Senate and say, I want to check at the Senate answer, what did CHERARGEI say about Nandi roads that are not passable? What did did he say about standards of airports? What did he say about leaking roofs? You know, these are, but if I was to SMS him and ask him, why is JKI leaking? Who will give the accountability of such? And I think I agree with you that the oversight role, we should use the mechanisms of the Constitution, because we are the people. This is our forum and our Constitution, that we take accountability at the end of the day. So I think what we are trying to do is that let people do their job. If you are a cabinet minister, do your job. If you are a senator, if by the way, if everybody did their job the way it should be, I'm telling you, this country, because like here in Spice FM, at least in the situation, you try and educate Kenyans, sensitize, bring some of us on board, so that Kenyans can understand why we are having certain perspectives regarding the national issues, and we are able to pull in the same direction. And I think that is what is important at the end of the day, because the president is very keen in terms of implementation of the plan. He is not very keen on people discussing succession politics or realigning politically, or using your offices to pledge loyalty, or to say CHERARGEI does not like me, it doesn't support me politically. Because at the moment, from where I come from, even in our region, the issue of kingpin. The kingpin comes, the current kingpin is the president of the Republic of Kenya, of the country. And even if he retires in 2032, I know Atwali once say he's too young to retire about Uhuru. William Ruto will be too young to retire. He will chart the way forward
for the next king
of the course of the next course of the Kalenjin nation. But some of the CSs have been sitting and planning for succession instead of fixing our roads, and that is why some of us, out of love, because we don't want them to engage in what we call self-destructing mode.
So this
there are machines where you put self-destruction mode. We tell them, no, my brother, don't go to that direction. Just chill up, hold up, relax, do your job. The future will take care of itself, and it will be seen.
Last week, CS Murkomen was scheduled to appear, and he didn't, and you tweeted. Murkomen was scheduled to appear before the Senate today in the morning to answer our question, including leaking roofs at JKIA terminals, but he declined, chickened out, and he written that in capitals, after he realized he didn't have any substantive answers about his ministry to Kenyans. Or maybe he was busy developing other insults. Lol.
You know, one of the things that I have always found interesting about this subject of oversight, are there limits? Is there a point at which you can say this doesn't fall under the purview of oversight? Or is anything and everything that you think and feel concerns the Mwananchi, is that within the purview of oversight?
Oversight, by the way, we should have started defining. I think she just threw me on the deep end. I think we should have defined what is oversight. Oversight to me is one, there is the hardware and the software. One is where you have Auditor General coming and auditing the books and everything. Then there is what we call social audit oversight, where watu wanasimama hapo wanasema hii Mombasa Road hii kama wananchi tunaona walisema bilioni 1, lakini tukiona hii ifiki 500 million. So now oversight is an animal, people would call it a mongrel, because you have the hardware and you have the social audit, where people sit and say we agree this cattle dip is 500,000, but we think when they say 1.5 million, so it's a bit open. But of course, the issue also, another aspect is where you are now doing it directly. So there are many facets of oversight that you have, and I know there is an MCA who sat here, and now in our counties there is what we call primary oversight, where MCAs play the role, where even what we call project in verification status unit. I sit as the vice chairperson of Senate County Public Accounts for now almost 7 years. So where sometimes we don't look at the Auditor General's report, we visit some projects in the county, see if the fishing projects, landing sites, and agree maybe the hospitals, the drugs. So it's also about project verification status. And also oversight is about also speaking about it, because looking at it, calling out, it is part. And oversight, by the way, is not limited to only people's representatives, even the media. Even I know we are in some WhatsApp group with you. I normally see you there. Even at that WhatsApp group, I think you call the watering hole or something. They ask.
They asked me to ask you why you left the group.
Oh, have I left? Those are, it's not limited. Even Eric, you can go, and Muga, you can go outside at the Mombasa Road and do oversight. It is, even when you are attending, you can ask questions. It is not limited. It's not an exclusive domain of senator or member of National Assembly. It is something that can be done by everybody. So I think what we should be doing is, the only difference is Parliament at least has a structure. Because after looking, for example, at the Auditor's General's report, we invite a governor, for example, let me use the county setup. We invite a governor maybe of Kisumu or Nairobi, Sakaja, and ask him why this project's Dandora Stadium, what is it? Then when we look at the Auditor's General's report, they clarify, and then you go now ahead and make recommendations and bring the report to the House. That is why it's a bit structured. Unlike when you speak and do social audit. And that is why now after that, we now make recommendations either to EACC or DCI, or even to do what we call special audit by the Auditor General, especially when we did about the COVID funds. You remember, we did a special audit. For example, if today we feel as a Senate there is a problem, for example, or G2G, which is in the lips of many Kenyans, we can say, as a Senate on County Public Accounts Committee or Finance, we have that power to direct the Auditor General, please do special audit on G2G.
On this particular one.
On this particular, let me use that one because at least Kenyans can, I'm not imputing that there is a problem with G2G, but it's something that is as a conversation that has been raised by the Azimio leader, among other leadership, and I can see, interestingly, and that is why I was very keen to be on the chamber today, very early in the morning. Of course, it's out of respect that I came here. There is a senator who is bringing a matter of G2G to the floor of the House so that all Kenyans can see. I'm happy at least so that we don't live in mystery where CHERARGEI says this, CT says this, Elik, you say this, my sister says something else. So I think that is the essence of oversight. It is now bringing those contracts. Let the National Treasury explain to the country. We query as the senators on behalf of you because you are represented. Then you form your opinion and say, as we look at this agreement, this it should be. So I agree the oversight should know. I know some people, the downside of oversight, some people feel that it can be a way of intimidating some people in offices,
or targeting
or politicizing. But you know, there is a thin line between politics and oversight to some level. Because when I comment now about G2G, I could be doing oversight, but somebody else might interpret that I'm doing politics about it. I could interpret about what is happening in Kajiado because you just had a conversation about it. And somebody might say, I'm commenting because the governor does not come from my coalition or he comes from the other coalition. So I think now the thin line, and the problem with oversight, some people lace it with politics to look. You remember my bill, I'm doing a reply on my bill of called the livestock theft. Livestock and theft produce bill, trying to fight cattle boundary and restraint. I'll be doing reply today in the afternoon, and I invite you to listen to my Solomonic directions on the bill, and I hope the National Assembly will agree with me and we pass that bill so that we punish the cattle rustler somewhere in Baragoi, punish the eater here in Bama Market, and kill the whole chain of criminal enterprise financing the livestock, and also agree that livestock issue of theft and boundary is a security issue where we need to take some people accountable, issues of branding and using modern technology. So those are some of the issues.
So oversight is all those things.
Yeah, it's all those things because now.
And what you're doing now, even as you speak out, is basically exercising your oversight role.
Correct. And that is why you ask a question by saying, these issues you have raised, have you ever raised in the forum where the people have given you, like Parliament? And that is now oversight, because also, the problem with Kenya, and Kenyans are not very keen. I could be doing a wonderful job raising on the floor of the House, but when I go to Nandi on the weekend and I say, I'm Jambo, all is well, God is good, all the time, and sit, people will not. But if I tell them, this week in Senate, I raise about your roads, they will clap. What did you do? This is the way forward. I raise about the delay.
So that's the accountability.
Yeah, that's the accountability. Yes, I agree. Now you're assisting me in tail-ending my thinking.
Your Honor.
Yes.
City, do you see the oversight bit?
I see it. For me, the obscurity that I see is not in the activities that we then describe as oversight, but it's in the effect.
Yes.
because there is oversight. Auditor General mentions these things. Senator CHERARGEI points it out. And then?
So the implementation part.
You call the relevant CSs and the government official who is supposed to be in charge of it. And then? The and then question for me at the back of my mind, what then do we do beyond that? Because it has been pointed out, it is clear, we can see the problem. And why it's an even bigger issue in my mind is some of these problems that we keep speaking of, and do mention it earlier, they're cyclical. We're seeing it this year, we're going to see it again, we are going to see it again, and again the issues will be raised again. Surely, what should be done when somebody is an office holder and they have a mandate before them and they do not perform, and it is clear that they are not doing what they are supposed to do? That is really what I'm asking. What do we do?
Can I answer quickly?
Yes.
Two things. One is that I think we need, when Obama came to Egypt in this first address to Africa, he encouraged us to build on the institutions. I think most of our agenda we are built around personalities and what, but if we had institutions that are strong, that no matter who is leading that institution, it is important. So I think many people will say, is it an African problem? Is it a Kenyan problem? I think because most of our issues are surrounding personalities, they don't surround building of institutions, and that is why if I'm taken to EACC, for example, today, because I might be, many people perceive I might be politically correct, no action can be taken against me. But if I was in politically, so do we believe in the institutions? Because I went to Brazil, and at that time there is this the president who was defeated, I'm forgetting his name, the Trump of South America. I can't recall his name. Bolsonaro. The state prosecutor was investigating him about receiving dirty money during the campaigns, and no one was raising a query about and investigating a sitting president. So does it mean even now what is happening in America against Trump, because the institutions are too strong to even withstand a former president? Number two, and finally, on the issue when people don't do their job, our constitution has given a way out. For example, one, parliament has power to censure if somebody does not perform. Vote of no confidence, impeachment, even calling out, summoning, fining in the powers and privileges of the law.
How often does that happen?
It has happened severally, where I've said there is a time we fine the current CS when he was the governor of Kwale. We also fine former governor of Kitui, Madam. We are fined, and I think a number of state agencies.
How much is this fine?
500,000 from your own pocket. But of course, when we invite you, the procedures of parliament, we invite you the first time, the second time, when you defy, we now issue summonses. And I remember the former governor of Muranga, we had to call in the Inspector General of Police to track him and trace him and bring him before the committee at that time. So those are some of the measures, because you're asking
was
me.
he brought?
Yes, he was brought. And he had to do profusal apology, and he had to be fined, and then we recommended DSCC to do the necessary, to do the investigations, and with the possibility of affront of the law, he was supposed to be taken to the law. So the question you are asking is, we don't have a problem with the law. The law has given us way out of people who do not perform.
So there are many avenues for you to perform your oversight role.
Correct.
To the end.
Absolutely.
Where if
but
you
now
feel
the part of
with the actions of the officers in the executive.
Correct.
You can then recommend that sanction.
Yes.
Going all the way to removal from office.
Correct. Can I use another example of Solai Dam, where we investigated and it came back to my committee, the issue? Unfortunately, I am not happy the way that question, but I know they have done out of court settlement. It's called blood money. We investigated, and I remember that time the DPP wanted to withdraw the charges against the owner of the dam. And I know there are many interests about that issue, but we found it weird that the DPP, because and in fact we sanctioned the former county commissioner and the chief of the area, it was called Mr. Kirago and Kanata, and we sanctioned those individuals because they had now gone and paid families, giving them 1,500,000 so that they don't bring the, and even the DPP has bought had wanted to also be part of it by saying, let us withdraw the charges since this gentleman has agreed. But the same event happened in Brumadinho Dam in Brazil, where it collapsed and killed people. But by the time I was engaging the state prosecutor, the owners of Brumadinho Dam were being charged in court, and yet they were facilitating the recovery and also compensation to families. But when you come to get, both things happen at the same time. But when I was the chair JLAC, before, of course, I was de-whipped in 2020 because of policy. I have never been de-whipped because of competence, because I'm the few people who always believed in justice. I was just de-whipped because at that time I was politically incorrect, and I was not looking nice to the powers be at that point in time. So we had recommended, Eric and my sister and my brother here, we had recommended a proper implementation plan, including charging of the people, compensation to the families, what we call environmental reclamation and conservation. So we have done, it is that sometimes there is no political goodwill. Sometimes you can recommend a governor has done this, take it to EACC. The people at EACC look at the file and close it until when you are politically incorrect, they retrieve. And that is why some of us always sometimes doubt that this is a political fight, because when we recommend that CHERARGEI should be charged because you think he's connected, they look at the file because they fear me, they close the file. The day I'll be politically incorrect, they retrieve. The same thing with the DPP. And I think those are challenges. It is about, as a nation, do we believe in institutions?
So we set up strong institutions.
Correct.
As we're talking about oversight, Mheshimiwa,
yes,
you know, something must come to the fore here.
Yes.
And this is the role of the 13th Parliament, the 12th Parliament, the 11th Parliament.
Correct.
Right now, members of the executive who are in the 12th Parliament,
yes,
including the Deputy President, some of them who are now in leadership in the 13th Parliament, are talking about, my God, we are dealing with the mess that happened in the last administration.
I expected that question.
They oversighted the so-called mess.
Yes.
The chair of budget was a member of the National Assembly. The leader
the chair of budget, or
the chair of budget currently in the National Assembly.
Yes, in the National Assembly.
The leader of majority in the National Assembly.
Yes, was
a leader. In fact, at some point, a chair of budget.
Yes.
The Deputy President was a member of the National Assembly.
Yes.
The Attorney General was a speaker.
Yes.
All these people.
CHERARGEI was a senator.
CHERARGEI was a senator and the chair of JLAC.
Yes, at that point.
And now here you are, all of you, telling us that you are sorting out the mess of the previous administration. Who is this previous administration if you're not including yourselves in it? And where were you when this oversight role was not being played?
Eric, that is a very vital question, and I think it's the minds of many Kenyans. People asking themselves, why are we saying there is a mess that we are cleaning up? I think you and me agree the biggest challenge in this country is the public debt that is approaching 11 trillion. And that public debt has affected our economy because we collect and pay. So the question should be, was there discipline in terms of international borrowing? Number two, on issues of extrajudicial killings, and that is why I try to explain challenges of oversight. You can recommend today as a committee, let me use, for example, Nairobi Metropolitan Services so that we quickly understand. When that issue of NMS came to Senate, I, even as the chair of JLAC, protested and even raised, and I remember Professor Kithure Kindiki being the deputy speaker and the chair at that time ruled, even agree with, I think, Anna Okwengu, the judge, that the transfer of functions of NMS was unconstitutional. We did raise. But the powers be thought that even if it is unconstitutional, we shall proceed. So it is the lack of respect of the rule of law. And that is why when we say we are trying to fix the mess, is, for example, was the people or the president then looking at when they go to borrow, were they looking at the discipline of borrowing and using that money prudently? Number one. Number two, in terms of extrajudicial killings that were happening across the country, people are fee-bound in Yala. These are the mess that we are talking about, trying and fixing them. In terms of delay of disbursement cash to counties, as per article, is it 218 of the Constitution, when they say when you appropriate, you release money to counties without undue delay. Those are some of the messes that we are talking about, but it does not mean we didn't speak about it. We spoke about it, but the powers be, the powers lie with one person.
Nope. You have just come from telling us that you have been given the powers by the Constitution,
correct,
by the law, by the standing orders of Parliament, on what to do.
But we have not amended the appearing of CSS in the last session.
It's okay.
Yes.
But you have the powers of oversight.
Correct.
Constitutional powers of oversight.
Yes.
In those powers of oversight, you sat back, you approved, for example, the wanton borrowing. You approved the budgets with serious deficits, which meant that you are still approving borrowing.
Or public debt ceiling.
Yes. And you still sat back and you did not properly investigate how that money was being prudently utilized. So when you come today and tell us, or you see that money that was borrowed, it was misused, we have got to sit back and ask ourselves, but you were there superintending the misuse of that money. You are in the pigsty. You cannot come and tell us, but you see, we are goats. We are not pigs.
No, what I can say, because also there is a principle of natural justice, at least for me, and I want to go on record. If you go to the answer, if there is, I was among the 7 senators, if you remember, that voted against the public debt raising of ceiling. So it is that we didn't have the numbers of 24 delegations. And decision of the Senate under Article 123 is you vote by delegation. Even if today, and I will try and get the answer, I was only among the 7 senators who voted twice against the raising of public debt. That is why I can speak on the moral high ground and say, this is because I have made a conscious decision as a senator and as elected representative that the public debt ceiling at that point being raised was against everything that was being done. So at least for me, I can speak for myself and say I voted against the raising of public debt ceiling. And even if you retrieve that answer, check it and call me back to even thank me for making that conscious decision, which was again unpopular at that time. So that's why I can say authoritatively, the borrowing that was done then was not fair to the economy of this country. And that is why we are having these challenges that we are facing up. And that is why even if and my advice, even governors, even in my CPAC, people who have been governors, we don't allow them to come to our committees because we are considering their financial report under review. So that's why even when former President Uhuru speaks, we always try and tell him, just hold on a bit. We fix a few issues that you had left a few mess, then you can speak maybe after 5 years. But you cannot blame us when we are trying to fix the same mess that you created. And I think that is, and now, what he should be telling us is that, how can he advise the government to try and fix the challenges that were there, and then, because he had also his own challenges, this government has his also challenges, and they are intertwined. Because if, for example, borrowing, it was done from Kenyatta 1. Moi, Kenyatta 2, and now even in this government.
You left at Kibaki in between.
Yeah, sorry, Kibaki also in between because he took us to the east. And when Kibaki took, by the way, Latiff, is when Kibaki took it. At that time, the economy was doing badly. I think it's about sometimes about institution, because we were collecting, I think, around 200 billion. By the time we left, we had raised 1 trillion, the revenue. I'm not saying we should tax Kenyans to death. You can't. And by the way, in a democracy, in our country, you don't even tax also the rich, because you tax the rich, they run away. You give them tax reliefs and tax exemptions so that they invest and employ the people, and then you go for your pay and get your money. So some of those models that we sometimes try and brainstorm, especially when we're in parliamentary group meetings, and I'm happy the president normally calls us for PG. You remember 2 weeks, and we discuss these issues in parliamentary group, and we ask the president.
In short,
yes,
those now in Kenya Kwanza, who were in Jubilee, and Azimio, before this, it wasn't called Azimio, it was ODM, before this, who were sitting in parliament, approving all this mess, oversighting this mess, should shut up about this mess. Do you agree with
But you agree with me that we have given some of them some high table to make some key decisions on trying to rectify, because life has second chance.
Actually, you raise an important point, but then you see the question comes back. Are they rectifying it, or are they getting us deeper into the hole?
For me, where I sit, and I have had a discussion and the president and even in parliamentary group, I'm happy for the first time. You should congratulate us. At least we have regular PGs. And like before, and like I was a member of Jubilee. We used to have
Jibu Swali.
No, I'm Najibo. You should thank us at least 10. At least before it was 10 minutes. At least nowadays we have a discussion.
It's your job, Senator.
No, but we used never to have PGs to consult with the party leader. It's important to consult so that you align in one direction. What I'm just saying is that I agree But we should at least give a chance, because listen, I'm answering your question.
And I'm telling you, the chance has been given. The moment you're elected,
yes,
you have the chance. What other chance do you want?
But let me ask CT, how do you pay 10 trillion within one financial year?
No, that is not what I'm saying.
Yes.
There's a conversation about giving this government a chance. The chance is theirs. What else do they want to be given? We are waiting to see results. That's the chance. Is someone taking the chance away from them? No. Or when one points to a hiccup, is that supposed to be something? We are simply saying, okay, ICT Muga, I am saying, you have all the chances in the world. Just do what we ask you to do. It's not really complicated, is it?
No, I agree. Now you are talking very well that we have the chance.
Yes.
Implement what we think. And that is why we are saying, in conclusion, what we are saying is give the next 1 year, between this year and next year, things should start looking up. The economy, because the president has put in necessary mechanisms to ensure that at least they stabilize the economy and the future looks bright. Let us also, as Kenyans, be always hopeful. I know, because of where we come from.
Your deputy president, tell him what he was saying yesterday, contrary to what the president was saying.
Yes.
Yeah. The messages he's sending are quite confusing.
You can invite him. I know he's a good man, and you have been interviewing him on occasions. You can thank you for having me, and let's get to business.
Let's see what will happen in the Senate this morning.
Yes, and I hope you'll follow it up.
We will be following.
Yes.
Asante sana for joining us. Senator Samson CHERARGEI from Nandi County has been our guest.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.